All right, guys. So a lot of people are asking me, is Omnisphere 3 overrated? Oh, you don't need Omnisphere. Omnisphere is just popular because it just came out. But I don't think people understand how deep Omnisphere goes. So if you don't know me, I'm Game from BusyWorksBeats.com. We train over 1 million producers around the world. Some have gone to work with Drake, Kanye West, Post Malone, Ariana Grande, French Montana, Young Thug, Polo G, Trippie Redd, J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, Glorilla. Some have won Grammy, some platinum plaques. Now, those guys, I could tell you, a lot of them probably use Omnisphere to get those placements. But what I'm going to explain in this video is that maybe you guys just don't know what Omnisphere 3 is and what it can do compared to Omnisphere 2. Am I saying that you have to rush out and get it? Yes. Am I saying that if you already have Omnisphere 2, that this is a mandatory upgrade? Yes. Am I saying if you've never used Omnisphere 3 ever and you want to get into a system that will actually build from the ground up, this is for you. Listen, guys, beyond just teaching a bunch of people, look at how many plugins I have. Okay. And I'm not doing this to flex. I'm just saying, like, I've gone through thousands and thousands of plugins, and I could tell you that I rarely ever click on a sound generating plugin. So hopefully I'm making sense. I have thousands of plugins, and I rarely ever use these sound generating plugins. I would rather use my keyboard, my Chord Kronos, or record myself, or even Suno Studio sometimes, depending on what we're trying to create. And I think a lot of people think that they can kind of piece together a keyboard workstation using all these different plugins. Even the Roland Cloud stuff is amazing. But I don't think people understand, to create a sound that's unique and really like modern and clean, you have to go beyond just what everybody else is using. Put it this way, if everybody uses the same thing, how is there difference? I'll say it one more time. If everybody's using the same thing, how is there difference? And this is why Omnisphere is so important. It's because it creates the difference for you. So in Omnisphere, for example, I can click on a patch. Let me click on Classic Digital. And let's go to all. I'm just going to click random, and I guarantee this sound is going to sound cool. So click something. I meant to click on the Rhodes, not that one, but let's click on this one. Now I think my keyboard's turned on, so let me turn this mic off. All right, so here's just this off the bat, super fire sound. You cannot miss with this library here. So I'm going to save this as a 5-star. Now, what you can do in Omnisphere that a lot of people don't really comprehend yet is the mutate button. So if you go to the main tab, go to layers, this is a little more visual for you. So let's go to mutate. And what Omnisphere does is it swaps out the samples underneath to give you a similar sound, but just different. Now this is a patch that nobody has. So you can, save these patches and make libraries out of them. For example, I gave you guys 2 free libraries just for signing up to our Omnisphere 3 giveaway. So another kind of myth is that like people like myself are sponsored. I don't think Omnisphere sponsors anybody. Yeah, over the years now I'm thinking about it, I don't remember them ever offering a discount. It's because they have the GTA 5 effect. We're going to create a new term called the GTA 5 effect. So if you guys remember when GTA 5 first came out, $50. And it stayed $50 for like 10 years straight. It never came down in price because the demand was so high. The value was so high and the demand was so high. Only until recent days did they start discounting because they were already working on Grand Theft Auto 6. And Omnisphere is the same exact way. It holds its value. A lot of people can't comprehend this because you may have never had hardware, but the reason hardware has such a good reputation is because when you buy a $2,000 piece of hardware, chances are you can at least get $1,000 out of it in the future, meaning it won't go down to zero value. So it's kind of like you get to use it for, the value that you lost. And that may be valuable, may not be to some people, but at least you get some value back when you go to trade in your hardware or whatever it is, or even trade with somebody else for some more gear. With software, however, you don't get that same privilege. You can't buy a synth and then trade it in later for the same value. Now, I think some people are working on marketplaces for that, but for the most part with software, it's not the same thing. Like when you buy Silent 1, can you trade it back in for the 180 you spent? When you buy Serum, can you trade it back in or trade with somebody else? And the answer is not really a yes. I'm sure there's somebody out there who's created a marketplace for licenses, but I'm not sure how that works. Now, Omnisphere is one of those plugins where when you get it, the value is so high in terms of what you actually get, it supersedes the actual price by at least 10. A lot of our favorite keyboards were really just like samplers that sampled a bunch of stuff. And they may or may not have had synth engines inside. Like I have a Chord Kronos, it has a couple synth engines in here, but to use the synth engines, you got to get really granular, and it's really hard to like know how everything works, even though it could probably do amazing things, but it's so granular and you have to menu dive that it kind of kills the flow. Omnisphere is so easy to use, and you have the same polished sound, the same big sound that you get from actual hardware. This plugin is so good. Recently, I was making plugins for you guys. You get the banks for free, for example. We're going to be giving away Omnisphere 3 November 15th. So make sure you sign up before then. Go to busyworksbeats.com/Omnisphere. I'll leave a link below. And in designing these sounds, I went from like Serum back to these presets I made. And I was like, wow, the Serum sounded so thin. And I'm not here to like persuade anybody, I guess. I'm not a salesman for Spectrasonics. Like, we're excited about this plugin because it's amazing. So for example, and this is not going to be a one-to-one match, but let's make a Serum patch real quick. Let's just do a 7 voice saw, and I'll try to keep it as standard as possible. Let's add a filter, and let's add some kind of envelope to the filter cutoff, so it goes meow like that. All right, let's add a little drive just to saturate it, and let's drop it down an octave or two. So now we get like a Reese pluck type sound. All right, now let's even go to the global tab and put this on ultra mode. Okay, so a pretty big sound. Now let's go to the effects. And here's where I think the difference is very clear between Serum 2 and Omnisphere. So for example, if I go to the effects, let's use a bus here. This is similar to an Omnisphere aux channel. Let's go to a hall. Let's go back to the front and let's send the sound over to the bus. So we should have reverb. Not sure why I'm hearing two sound. Oh, because it's okay. So this is not post fader. Okay, or post filter. Let me figure out a way to send the filter over. Okay, I didn't realize that was that way. You learn something every day. All right, so now the filtered sound is going over to the bus. So the sound to me sounds good, but it still has this like plasticky type of sound to it, and it's just not. Maybe we're just up too high. Okay, so to my ear, it's kind of plasticky. Okay, but that could have been just the way I sound designed. Now let's go to Omnisphere, for example. Let's initialize the patch. Let's do the same moves here, unison. Now it doesn't give us the exact voices here, so I have to guess 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 voices it looks like. Let's do detune. Now because Omnisphere has some preset values for us, like analog drifting, scatter, I don't know what that means specifically, but drifting, we have the analog spread. Let's keep that the same. And let's go to the filter here. And by default, it already has a filter built for you. So you don't have to, because Eric Persing is behind the vision of this company, you have a lot of stuff that's pre-made for you that sound designers would naturally do. So you don't have to sit there and program a filter or an envelope for the filter every single time. It's kind of pre-built because this is what we would normally do as sound designers anyway. Okay, now let's turn the envelope up and let's do the same thing here, adding some drive. And I think I forgot what kind of filter we had on Serum. So again, this is not a direct comparison here, but I just want to make sure the dB per octave is the same. So there we had a 12 dB per octave. We can even go to the legacy filters here and go to 12 dB per octave filters. Now I don't know the difference between every single filter here. I'm not going to act like I'm an expert on filters. All right, and we have the cutoff. All right, so let me figure out the differences here. So that decay curvature seems a little sharper. There we go. Okay, now if I play these two sounds back to back, let me also. This one's very bitey, very full. This one, I don't know if we detuned it enough. Also the filter. Let's switch the filter here to a different filter. All right, so similar sounds here. Okay, so we've gotten pretty close to the same sound here, kind of. All right, and then the last thing we need to do here is transpose this down about 12 or so. Are they the same exact sound? No. This one's a little bit brighter. But we would have to figure out the exact filter match. So I'm trying to save time on the video. There we go, here's a similar filter. How big that sounds. All All right, so close enough. Okay, so this one's just a little brighter though, to be fair. I don't know if these power ones come in 6 dB or not. So I'm trying to get as close as a comparison as possible. I guess that's about as close as we can get. This one's a little darker. What I'm going to do to compensate is go to the mod matrix of Serum, make it unipolar. Kind of match the frequency range and give it a sharper decay curvature. And let's do this. There we go. And also we got to make sure we're not clipping. All right, so as you guys can see, matching these perfectly is a little difficult. Close enough though. Okay, so in Omnisphere, let me show you guys how fast we can get a really unique sound. Again, you can literally program a sound and go to mutate to create different vibes. So I can go to mutate and it will have just different. We can go to mutate again. And now you have all these distinct differences, but it still has the same modulation. So it gives the same feel, but it's slightly different. I don't know a way you can do that in Serum outside of just going through wavetables. But again, you would have to have the wavetable that has the actual shape for you. So that, I don't think there is an equivalency. And I'm not here to compare Serum versus Omnisphere. I'm just showing you guys why Omnisphere is a little bit different in the experience and workflow. Let's hit mutate again. So now we have 5 to 6 completely different sounds here. With all the basic premise of being the same type of sound. Now, also what I love about Omnisphere is that you could just right click stuff and modulate. You could do the same thing in Serum. You guys can't see, let me switch my camera. So we're gonna right click the panning, for example. Let's modulate this by, for example, alternative. Now we have this like left, right sprinkling. And we could do cool stuff like right click the fine tune knob. Everything's just right here. We don't have to menu dive. Again, this plugin is built with a sound designer's mindset. Let's modulate with randomize and let's pull in the source so the range isn't too crazy. Let's give it a little, now I'm changing the sound from the other sound here. Let's give it a little release tail. Let's open up this filter. Now the real big difference between Omnisphere and Serum, for example, is the effects. So I'm gonna go to the main tab. Let's switch this to independent mode. And let's go to layer A, for example. Does this even have a layer B out? Oh, I guess it did add a layer. Okay, let's go to common. And let's run this through some kind of compressor of some sort. I like the multi-band that really pulls out a lot of detail. And let's send this to the aux. And on the aux, let's add a really nice reverb. Let's do Velvet Verb, one of my favorites. Up the decay. And now we have this super ambient sound without even doing a bunch of moves. All I did was just ungroup the sounds. I went to the effects, loaded up a reverb just like that. Now in Serum, you know, that workflow to get something like the fast way that I just did that, I would have to click here, figure out a wavetable that is different. Let's go to digital. Let's click around. It's just a different workflow. I'm not comparing them saying they're the same. I want to be careful with how I'm describing this stuff. All right, so let's just arrow through. So technically somebody could do this. Pretty cool sound there. Now let's go to the effects and let's say they want to create a long tail reverb. Let's up the decay curvature, turn the mix level up. Now, to me, when we get to the effects, this is where it's so clear the difference between Serum and Omnisphere. Let's go to the main tab. Let's add that multiband. Now there, I will say Serum's multiband compressor is really unique in the smack that it gives the sound. Let me, it adds this like EDM smack, very unique. Now let's do some of the same things, which is to randomize the fine tune. You can right click, so this is very similar. You can go to mod source and we can modulate this straight from the mod source and use things like random. Now, I'm not sure all the modulators are the same or different. I haven't sat here and gone through the modulation. Where is note random? So now the fine tune pitch is being modulated and we can go right to the mod matrix and kind of control that. So I wonder how how many sources and how many destinations we can get. I know in Omnisphere, there's 4 pages of modulation. Okay, so if you're a crazy sound designer, like insane in the brain, you have 4 pages of what, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So that's what, 48 modulation sources. That's insanity. Okay, as you guys can see in Serum 2, what's visible, I think if you keep adding it, it just adds as you go. So I won't say this is a limit, but we have 2, 4, 6, 8, at least in view. And I think it keeps going if you keep adding modulation. Okay, here's some more. So I think we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15. From what I could see, it may go deeper, it may add on, I'm not sure. But let's just say 15 mod sources compared to 48. Now, again, will you use 48 mod sources? Probably not, but at least I'm showing you guys the differences here. Now, let's say you want the cutoff to be controlled by the velocity. What I like too on the matrix, you can have an aux source. So this is kind of like a bigger brother of the modulator. And you can add velocity to it, for example. So now if I hit harder, it kind of controls where this value sits, I guess. It's an easy way to think of it. So now my velocity is also controlling the range for the envelope. So if I play soft, even though the envelope controls the filter, the range is smaller. If I play harder, the range widens up. So that's a cool little feature. You could do the similar thing. Let me see. But now let me start playing the difference here. So Serum has a cool sound, but when you go to Omnisphere, it just sounds bigger to my ear. Now let's say some of that is that panning that I did. So let's right click, let's do mod source, note on alternative. Let's even go down an octave. So it's a cool sound, but to me it has a little bit of a plasticky vibe to it. And I'm not critiquing Serum 2 because I think that's also a great plugin. I want you guys to buy both of them. But when you hear Omnisphere, there's a different level of detail on the sound. It's just bigger to my ear. Way bigger to my ear. And it has like this glue that only Logic Pro really gave me as far as stock sounds. It has that glue, that density, that weight, I'll say, that analog has. So this is, I'm showing you guys very minute differences, but I want you guys to understand Omnisphere 3 is not overrated. I just think a lot of people aren't sound designers, so they're kind of relying on presets, which is fine. They have tons of presets. And also too, these presets are categorized for you in different directories. So if you guys need quick things to load up, my recommendation is Classic Digital for trap and hip hop. You really can't go wrong with these. Now that's the percussion sound, so. Like, listen to how crazy this sound. It's like PlayStation 2. Let's save this because this is crazy. And also too, Omnisphere is very CPU friendly. If we delete Serum, all right, so I think I had a lot of voices on that one. We can go to view plugin performance to see which plugins are eating up a lot of. So Omnisphere took up 20 on this patch, probably because we have so many things going on. We have 4 layers, we have effects, we have, I assume, some granular. Yeah, anytime you use granular, it's gonna be CPU heavy. So I'm just letting you guys know. Just the nature of that many samples at one time. And that goes for Arturia plugins, that goes for Serum. Granular just eats up a lot of CPU power. All right, so let's also try another library. So that's Classic Digital. As you guys can see, I could literally just hit shuffle and pick a dope sound. And it's like sounds that inspire you to do something new instead of the same old, same old. And because there's 40,000 sounds in here, you could just easily click through presets and just get new inspiration. Whereas Serum, and again, I'm not trying to directly compare, I'm just trying to show you guys there's a difference in Omnisphere. In Serum, to do preset randomization, I'm not sure there is a feature. You have to kind of menu dive to go through presets, or you can click here and go through presets this way, but it's still menu diving. There's no shuffle button from what I understand. Maybe there's a shuffle button somewhere. I just don't know where it is. Let me click around. I don't visually see a shuffle button. Maybe there is somewhere, but it's not obvious where it is. And so things like this give you a different experience. And again, I'm not critiquing Steve Duda in Splice for Serum 2. I think that's another plugin you guys should invest in. But now Omnisphere has gotten to a level where it's not only just a sound designer, it's somebody who could just pick presets and go. So they've made it easy for the average person and the sound designer to actually do what they do. And that's a very difficult thing to do in terms of UI and workflow experience. Like, these sounds are crazy. We're gonna hear some of the craziest beats in the next 2 years when people get their hands on Omnisphere. So even if I click here, there's another one people keep talking about called Ambient Dreams. So let's click on this one. I haven't heard these sounds, but people kept showing me this. So let's see. Pretty unique sound right there. Save that. That was cool. And also too, you know, when you get into sound design, I'll show you guys something in this a little bit. Now, that's a vibe. I could tell this has mutate on probably. Or a filter mod. Okay, it doesn't have quad zone like I thought. Like, that's a vibe. Whoever made these. And also too, with the mod wheel, you can get even more expression. Squeaky keyboard, you guys can hear the squeaks. That's a fire preset right there. Man, shout out to whoever showed me Ambient Dreams. It was somebody who emailed me as a customer, so thank you. Man, really dope sounds in here. Under warm tones here too, let's just click random. Somebody was saying this is a dope library. I'm not sure if it was for hip hop, but yeah, these are dope. Let me turn this up. Yeah, that's for trap. How'd I miss this before? Yo, there's 40,000 sounds in here, y'all. There's no way anybody can go through all of this. It's impeccable. It's impossible, I meant to say. Like, tell me who's going to come up with that sound in Serum quickly. Like, man, there's just so much you could do. And in Omnisphere too, not to compare, but I'm showing you guys there is a difference. Omnisphere has 4 sound making things with the ability to layer in samples or synthesis. Now, I will say the one thing that's easier to do in Serum is FM synthesis. That is way easier now. So Omnisphere, it can do FM synthesis, but it's a different, I don't know how, it's just not as easy as Serum. So that's the only main kind of sound design difference I'll say. But dramatic sound design difference. So we have A, B, C, and D. You could use samples or synth. And you have 8 layers or multis, whatever you want to call these, 8 groups. So it's basically 4 times 8. 32 sounds you can create in one key. Now, I would probably blow up my computer if I did it. But you can set the multis to different channels if you have different MIDI cables going to different stuff or whatever. I don't know. You guys have complex MIDI setups. Normally, I just go to channel 1 for each of these to trigger each of these. And basically, you could trigger up to 8 groups of 4 sounds each. So that's 32 sound making things. And keep in mind, you can still modulate a billion things of those 32 things. So that's why I said it gets so much more complex. What I love about Omnisphere, and it sounds like I'm repeating myself, but I want to drill in this point. It makes it easy for the person who just wants to flick through presets, and it makes it easy for the sound designer. That's an extremely difficult thing to do. Like people said, and try to compare Omnisphere to Falcon, which Falcon can do a lot, yeah, but you have to darn near know how to code to use the thing. It's just not the most friendly environment. I'm not saying it's not great. I'm just saying it's not like user friendly in terms of the interface. So it's like, I don't care how much people could do on Falcon. It's just like, it's too complicated to get there. Omnisphere is very straightforward. You could just accidentally click on something and discover a whole new sound just like that without even going deep into the menus. So I think Omnisphere, you know, like I said, they keep their price up because it's the pinnacle of the market. You really can't get better than Omnisphere. Another thing that I didn't touch on, because we're in FL Studio 25, you could do search. So Omnisphere basically is like Google. If I type in, let's go to the entire directory, which is all 40 something thousand sounds. Let's do all directories. So I don't even know how many sounds would be in here, a crazy amount. Let's search and let's type in, let's say I want a flute. I could search the word flute and it pulls up every preset tagged with flute. So now I can just go through and discover new sounds. And these sounds are made by real sound designers who take their time with sounds. These aren't slapped together presets made by, you know, some kind of subcontractor real quick that other companies do. So the factory presets have to be the best in the world. And like I said, if I compare this with my Korg Kronos, you're going to get the same sonic fidelity. You're going to get 100,000 times the sounds, because I don't know how many sounds Korg Kronos comes with. Maybe it comes with, let's say, even 500 sounds. We're getting 40,000 sounds in Omnisphere. Okay, 40,000 presets. And Omnisphere has waveforms and wave shapes from the actual gear. So let me show you guys a library. I think it's in here under legacy libraries. If you go to hardware library, this is where you're going to find all the analog waveforms for all the classic gear. So if I wanted to make, let's start over. And the sound designers aren't going to tell you this because they want to keep this a trade secret, but I mean, it is what it is. Now we're here. So let's go to where it is. Let's do like an Oberheim type of brass, for example. Like you're getting a real Oberheim brass. Turn this down a little bit. Now, should I go out and buy a $5,000 keyboard just to make this one sound? You know, it's up to you if you guys want to do that, but I'm not criticizing the Oberheim. When you get into real analog, I think people don't have analog gear, so they just don't know. Sound design is pretty much the same on one synth as it is on another synth, as it is on another synth. A saw is a saw is a saw is a saw. A filter is a filter is a filter is a filter. You know, the way we go about sound designing is there's subtle differences in synths. You know, the thing about the Oberheim is that brassy tone. But once we get into all the other features, it's pretty much the same as a Prophet 6 or whatever other keyboard. They're very subtle differences. Just like that, you got a melody. That's crazy. Telling you guys, this thing goes way deeper than you think. Now, again, a lot of misconceptions about Omnisphere 2 was that it came with just a bunch of realistic sounds like keyboards, guitars, bass, all that type of stuff that a normal keyboard workstation would have. And that's where Spectrasonics didn't put all of their focus because they spread that across their different libraries from Trillion to Keyscape, which basically, put it this way, Omnisphere is like Xbox or like PlayStation, and they also create video games for Omnisphere. So those video games would be your Keyscape, for example. This is where you get the keyboard sounds from. So if you're looking for a keyboard workstation keyboard sound, here's your grand piano, for example. Let me up the, let's turn this up. All right. All right, so we got the pianos, we got felt keyboard. Now, tell me how many times people use this in their Drake beats. Like, bruh, we use this a million times on Drake beats. This felt piano, it's a softened harmonic piano. Like, bruh, that is the most, I don't even know how to describe it. The best soft piano out there. you got the Rhodes, super clean Rhodes, and you got, you know, the Rhodes with the effects on it. And then if you want to take this to a different level, you could take the Keyscape preset and run it through the modern Omnisphere effects. So now this gets, you're doubling the power basically of these libraries. And this is why it's so important to start with Omnisphere, because you could build on top of Omnisphere. Let's add like some kind of reverb. I'm just throwing a reverb on. I'm not playing the greatest chord progression. Let me play better. Okay, so again, I'm not playing the greatest keys, but as you guys can see, Omnisphere just keeps adding value and adding value. Even if you buy into what's called their sonic extensions, these are, you know, in my opinion, it's like to expect Omnisphere to give you everything for $500 is like they would be ripping themselves off for tens of thousands of dollars, because keyboard workstations can't do everything. You know, there's still choir libraries out there made by contact designers that are worth at least $800 a piece. So it gets very complex, but I think they've built the best infrastructure for releasing their own libraries. And this is what no other company has really mastered. Omnisphere did it the best and still does it the best. So you have, or Spectrasonics, I mean. So like I said, you have the Omnisphere directory, and then you can load in other directories with different sounds. So like Nylon Sky, for example, they focused on guitar sounds. Forgot the chord progression we used to do. It was like, so they have all the details of recording a real acoustic guitar, nylon in that case. And this is where they started focusing on individual instruments, in my opinion. The Keyscapes, the Nylon Sky. Unclean Machine was really good for trap, for example. Like, it's just sounds you can't miss in this library, but you have to buy that as an add-on. So I think Omnisphere gives you the greatest starting point, and when you want to expand and upgrade, you can through Nylon Sky, Unclean Machine, Trillion, Keyscape. I have all these. Now I don't have everything they have ever released, but I have the stuff that, you know, hip hop's kind of been using. And then you guys got all these new libraries on top of that. So you really can't miss with Omnisphere 3. It's just so impeccable that, again, it's too much to add. I mean, too much to show. That's perfect for R&B because that little rising like that. So I'm just going to let you guys discover it for yourself. But if you go to busyworksbeats.com, so it's busyworksbeats.com/Omnisphere. We're doing a new Omnisphere 3 giveaway. We're not sponsored. They didn't pay for it. I'm coming out of my pocket. We're going to buy a new version of Omnisphere for somebody. So go to busyworksbeats.com/Omnisphere and join for free. When you join for free, you get 3 analog lab banks for free. One for trap, one for electronic, and another one for R&B. And you get 2 Omnisphere banks, one for wave, funk wave or wave, and another one for just general kind of trap and hip hop. So I made all of this for free just for you entering at busyworksbeats.com/Omnisphere. And on top of joining for free and getting all those freebies, out of breath, you guys get, so that's 250 sounds I'm giving away for free. You guys also get access to our download vault, which has so much stuff in there that it's going to take me forever to describe it. But I want you guys to get excited. Omnisphere 3 is worth the value. It's worth way more than you guys even believe. If I told you my keyboard right now that I use is worth $4,000 and I'm barely using the sounds out of here, I'd rather prefer Omnisphere. You need to understand the value of Omnisphere. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. It's Game from busyworksbeats.com. Peace out, guys.